everyone, how's it going? It's the Fuzz, and this video is gonna be something a little bit different. I'm not gonna be doing a deck. I'm not gonna be reviewing cards, not really. So what am I doing? This is essentially going to be a start of a tiny little project I'm gonna call Project Rebalance. So this is an idea I've discussed with Crip some time ago that I kind of just, it got forgotten about, but I want to start it up again with the addition of all these new cards. So what the idea is basically this. We have a lot of cards in this game that could use a tune-up, right? In essence, I could divide up every card into one of four categories. Trash, that is, nobody ever plays it. You know, kind of okay, you know, not bad, but just doesn't fit anywhere. Decent, with some potential that might be played, and then the really good. And then there's a fifth category of the completely batshit crazy cards. So the cards I mostly want to focus on are the batshit crazy and the really bad. These are the cards that I think Spellweaver could do without. Now, to give you a better idea of all these things I just mentioned, I have a little list of cards here that basically is an example of each of these. So, Vegetation Blockade is complete joke, right? Why is this card terrible? You pay 2 mana, and then your opponent pays 2 mana, you know, for the extra 2 mana, and then you lose this. So it doesn't do anything. You know, the card is bad. There's no way to use it. It should be better, right? It doesn't serve any purpose in the game. Now, an example of a card that's not bad, but just can't seem to be played anywhere is Murder Instinct. Now, if you look at this card, you think, wait, this looks pretty good, right? So what's the problem? Well, the problem with this card is that it's in an aspect that has a million other ways to remove creatures. The card isn't bad, but it's just unnecessary. But you can't call this trash. Then another example would be a card like Felix, which is decent, seems pretty decent, but not immediately good. Like, you know, you don't look at this card and say, yes, I'm gonna play this in this deck. It's amazing. It's, maybe I'll play it. It might have potential. And then the category of good is cards like Mutant. You just play this, right? If you can play it, you really play it. Now, I said 2, but it's actually 3 categories. The 3 problem categories are the terrible cards, because we don't need them, the batshit crazy cards, because they break the game, and the last category, by the way, I have VATs here for the batshit crazy cards. It should need no explanation for why this card is broken. Cards like this, Reign of the Underworld, a card which is not overpowered or game-breaking, just really, really annoying. A card like this just stops the game dead in its tracks. And I think the worst part about it is it doesn't even benefit you as the player who played it. It doesn't give you anything over your opponent. Maybe you designed your deck so that you don't want battles to be taking place, but unlike something like Grand Reunion, it doesn't give you anything that your opponent isn't getting. You know, you can make Enslaved Souls, they can make Enslaved Souls. All this card does is change how the game is played. Unfortunately, it slows it down to a crawl, which makes it great for control decks and miserable for everyone else. So this is also the kind of card I'm going to target. Now, we've seen some new cards in this expansion, and a card like Cloning Vat is just completely crazy overpowered. And in fact, this card especially is so bad that it's made it almost impossible to evaluate any other cards which I'd like to play with, like the big order cards, but, well, they're not Cloning Vats, so it's just, I could call every other card trash, or the okay category, because it's not Cloning Vats. So, cards like this, that are just way too good, they gotta go. Now, we received some cards that are absolutely awful in this expansion, and I have a few examples of that as well. So, Spoils of War is a cool attempt to give Corruption some card draw. I appreciate that. But the condition is simply way too difficult. So, just to give you an example of some of these things that we're all going to kind of suggest to change, Spoils of War, my suggestion would be to make it whenever 3 creatures died, period. Yours or your opponent's. It would make it much easier to trigger. and you might actually consider running it. Instead of, yeah, you're not going to run it because when are you ever going to kill 3 creatures? And also maybe make that gain 3 life like 6 life or something, so it's even. Another example is Shock. This card literally does nothing. You draw a card, and then what, shock something? We have a Lightning Elemental which does this, shocks a creature, and then it's a 2/1/4 speed body. That's a cool card. This is just, it feels like filler. If we're gonna design a spell for Wisdom that does something like that, it's gotta do something a little bit more. It maybe could also put energy or something. Like, this seems like a perfect example of a choose card. Like, you know, you draw a card and then choose. Shock a creature, or put like 1 energy or on something, or some other small effect. So, you know, even if the card isn't great, as long as there's some usability in it, right? We're just trying to take care of cards that are just trash, that have no chance to be played, like this one, and make them at least like a small consideration. And the last card is the Soul Projection, a card which had tremendous potential to be a board clear for Order, instead is a complete joke for Order. And how would I fix this? There's 2 very simple ways. One would be to make the damage dealt to be to all enemy creatures for the X. Like, if you sacrifice a 4 attack creature, it does 4 damage to all enemies, not divide 4 damage. That's just terrible. If you sack a 4/4 and your opponent distributes 4 damage, even if you kill a 4/4, you paid 2 cards to do it. So what is the point of that? And in that case, make the spell cost 3 mana. But then it'd be a board clear for Order, which they don't have. The only other one would be to make it so that the creature does not die. You cast it on a big minion, you distribute a bunch of damage, but you don't lose it. You don't lose the creature, because why would you want to lose the creature too? But I think my first suggestion is the one I'm actually gonna go with, because I want every aspect to get some things they don't already have. The minion doesn't need more removal. Wisdom doesn't need more card draw. Order doesn't need more healing. You know what I mean? Like, you want to distribute these things across. Every aspect should have some removal, right? It doesn't all have to be 2 mana destroy a creature, but it should be something that they can use, so that it's not like, well, I have to splash Dominion because it's the only aspect that has removal. That's always been a problem with the game, but hey, we're here to help. So, taking all this, I'm gonna compile a big list of these cards. These all being on the list. Well, actually, Murder Instinct and Mutant and Felix are not going to be on the list, but all the other ones. Once I am done, I'm going to pass the list along to, let's say, Peacekeeper. Then he's going to do the same thing. He's going to, you know, maybe alter some of my suggestions, add some of his own. Then he's going to pass the list to Johto. Then he's going to pass the list to Laurential. And then he's going to pass it to Boltor and whatever. Once we're all done, once it's all said and done, we're going to submit the whole thing to the developers. Let them get the opinions of the players that have been with the game for the longest, for like almost from the start, right? Well, Peacekeeper a little bit less, but he's still very experienced. Then they'll have just, you know, our opinions, and they can figure out what they want to do and maybe make all these cards really awesome, right? Because I want every card to be good. We don't want any cards that are overpowered, that are too good, and we don't want any cards that are terrible, because neither of those cards is good for the game. Bad cards, well, they might as well not exist, and OP cards make it so that anything else just isn't even worth playing. And cloning Vats especially took it to a whole another level, where there's all these really good Rage and Order cards I want to try, but they're not cloning Vats. You know what I mean? So, anyways, we'll see how it works out. By the way, leave your suggestions in the comments. I'm not gonna, like, submit my thing to the next player for a little bit. So, if you guys can come up with some cool suggestions, I'll definitely look at them. Like, what do you think should be changed? But also, how should it be changed? And, by the way, if you're gonna include something like Bloodwitch Harpy, that's fair, but I would like you to know how you would like to fix it. Just saying remove Bloodwitch Harpy or something isn't very helpful, because Bloodwitch Harpy is kind of a medicine to some of the cancer, like some of the aggro, so we can't just get rid of it like that. It's not that simple. But anyways, I'm looking forward to what you guys can come up with. I'm gonna take a day or two to compile this list, and then I'll pass it along, and I'm hoping maybe before Masters, if we're lucky, if the other guys can come on board, if they're not too busy, hopefully get this submitted, and then, yeah, we'll see where we go from there. I want to make Spellweaver an awesome game that it deserves to be. We're just not quite there, but you know what? We can help our developers. Our developers are very busy. They try their best, but they sometimes make mistakes. But that's okay. We're here to help, and we can help because we're all brilliant. We all play the game. We all love the game, and everybody has a perspective. And when you take it all together, you can come up with something pretty good. So thanks for sticking around. Let me know what you think. Again, leave your suggestions in the comments. If I see one that's really cool, I'm actually gonna put down the name of the person on the list so that hopefully they get the recognition if it's something really cool. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.